Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Annie.
I'm Dillon.
Great to have you back, Dillon. You know, on this show, we always rant, rave, and ramble about games that we like. And so far, we haven't really talked about games we don't like. But you know what? That's in the slogan, so we're going to keep it there. This week, we have a guest with us, Chris from the Conspire Theory podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, you might also know me as Skinny Chad Zumock in the Dabbleverse, but I largely go by Conspire Theory. You'll see my art and stuff, and often when I'm on Conspire Theory, my own podcast, talk about paranormal, and when I'm not chasing ghosties and aliens and stuff like this, I'm hunting down ghosties and aliens and XCOM and other fun games of that nature that we're going to be talking to and about and all of that good fun stuff. Hang on, I got to pop open my Coors. It's
So
okay.
I forgot to ask
the
the signature.
Coors Edge, the non-alcoholic one. Sorry.
I can't believe I forgot the signature question. What is this game? This is XCOM Enemy Unknown. I believe it was released initially in 2012 for Xbox and PlayStation, and then later on it came out on PC, if not at the same time. I didn't do too much research into the actual release of the game, but it is a top-down strategy, turn-based shooter. It's in the likes of like Fallout and the Tactics series of games, such as like Final Fantasy, Gears Tactics. I mean, basically, Tactics has a IP license out to like everything to make their game pretty much any IP. Anyway, moving on. This one is XCOM, which is you are a group of military people who fight aliens who landed on the planet. The story's pretty
extraterrestrial combat. I actually recently found out. I didn't know what it stood for, but extraterrestrial combat is what we are going against with our ragtag team at first. You've got to level up your rookies. They are a bit hurting in the combat at first, and then at the end, they are absolute experts at taking down the aliens. Assuming
that they live.
Oh, yeah. The permadeath. You can customize these characters, and like some of the characters that get it will absolutely hit me in the heart of no, don't take away diversity hire. Diversity hire was actually doing quite well, and I gave all my characters joke names like that this time around. Matt Tress is one of my snipers, and you get attached to these characters that it's a permadeath. They are gone. You need to restock your barracks if they are taken down.
Yeah, that's a great mechanic of the game. It's not like other games like this where if you just like die, you just lose. You can essentially get kind of soft locked out of the game by running out of soldiers and running out of money and just kind of lose because the aliens are getting too strong and you have misplaced your resources. So if you're not smart with your decisions early game, you can really screw yourself in the middle game. Late game, you'll be fine because you're getting so much money from all these different missions and things, and your soldiers are, assuming they live, are pretty adept at this point. So you can easily breeze through combat.
I'll say it's sort of XCOM has a sort of Dark Souls-esque type reputation where it's like punishingly hard, but it's the difficulty that's like the most rewarding about it.
Absolutely.
What draws people to it. And it's one of those games where it starts off, mind-bendingly hard, where you're at a clear disadvantage. And it's only through research and development that you can, level yourself up and put yourself on level playing field, at least temporarily with the aliens until they bring out something new and fantastic to F with you.
Like the Cyberdisc. Whenever that Cyberdisc came out, I was just running basically the entire fight because I didn't know how to deal with it being able to do 9 damage to me in one hit. So I'm just freaking out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose basically everybody. Do I just like quit the mission and take the loss, or do I, persist? So for the first, I want to say 15, 20 hours of the game, it was just loss after loss after loss. Like people were dying left and right in bogus ways. And it took me so long to just figure out what enemies could do and how they could do it. And I was only playing on easy. So like, I imagine they get, because I noticed certain plays that the AI would make that I was like, come on, if you would have just moved the guy here and shot me, you definitely would have killed me. I know you would have had like an 80% chance to hit me or higher, and the guy's not even in cover. Instead, you went over there. I'm sure if I was playing on expert or whatever, the guy would have just threw a grenade at me and killed me.
Yeah, I actually started 5 different times because I actually started on the hard difficulty. I'm experienced in XCOM 2, so I just jumped right into a harder difficulty, too damn hard. So the first 2 playthroughs, I was like, I can do this on hard. Well, not playthroughs, attempts at playthroughs, till I knocked down the difficulty a little bit to have more of a grasp of what I'm doing. And just the base building. You have the base building is the other mechanic that I just completely messed up several times over. And here's a screenshot of my successful base. And they do have like different areas have this steam. You have to excavate and place in the proper the workshop is one thing that I underestimated. You need to have your workshop to get more engineers, to build more satellites, to build more UFOs, to take them out. And that is where I really messed up, was not having enough engineers several times over. So I started out with the workshops to help balance out, get the engineers and be able to create the proper stuff to take these aliens down. It's nice that it has a different enough mechanic from XCOM 2 that I needed to learn exactly what to do. You got to learn exactly what research you want to tackle first like I really want to rush getting the upgraded fighters, like the UFO fighters, to take down. So those were the 2 things I was trying to rush, was getting up satellites. Because if you get up a satellite over a country, it'll lower the panic. If panic becomes too much, the country, nope, we're not part of XCOM anymore.
And they won't give you any resources or give you any more missions in the future. So it cuts down both your immediate rewards from them and rewards from, I don't know, like 2, 4, 6 months from now. If they're no longer, requesting assistance from XCOM, you're not going to get missions from France, Australia, all these different countries. But to go back just a second, when Dillon was talking about the base building in XCOM Enemy Unknown is pretty cool. You have your, like, I don't know, I guess it's the base. You either have it in America or in Europe. Doesn't really matter, I guess, which one you pick. But
I did cheat. The internet told me to start in Africa for the bonus, so I started in Africa to get
regional bonuses, and that's why you have to like keep everybody happy, so that way the regional bonuses kick in.
Also, depending on where your base is, that's where your first fighter will be. So you'll be able to intercept closer to your base because, you can't intercept across the world because you don't have interceptors yet. But anyway, the base is like an anthill view. And you're able to, if you've ever played Fallout Shelter or any game like Fallout Shelter, it's pretty much exactly the same. You go down several levels, you excavate little rooms, you build an elevator down to the additional levels, and off of the elevator, you can have different rooms. In this screenshot, in the top left, Dillon has a bunch of satellite uplinks, which allows his base to put satellites over the countries, as Dillon already mentioned. He's got plenty of power, so he can power all of these rooms and the research and the engineering team, because that's like the 2 main things. You have to focus on your research so you can get new tech, and then you have to have the resources to fabricate it in an engineering lab. Then you have all sorts of other rooms like alien containment, your genetics lab, the psionics lab, so you can teach your soldiers to be, mind powers.
Yeah, and you can't just stack, just anything next to each other. There's like an organization where you can get like additional bonuses. Like if you stack all your satellite nexuses together, then you can get like bonus coverage and stuff of that nature. Same thing with the workshops and the foundries. They all have like interlinking principles that help benefit each other. So they're not just random blocks that you can just slap together.
Yeah, if you do just randomly slap them together, as I was doing on the first abandoned playthrough, the bonuses come in big time. And you do want to get like your satellites all in a square, but you saw on that screenshot they weren't exactly in a square because the steam is randomly generated where the steam will be, and you want to put a power generator there to get extra thermo power going.
It's really good early game if you're able to put your because I think it generates 20 or 40 power, which at the time is double, quadruple what you have. So it's super useful if you need rapid expansion.
Yeah, just a regular power station is worth 6. Thermo is worth 30. So yeah, one of the first playthroughs, I just threw whatever there, and I'm like, oh, I fucked that up. I need to throw that 30 power over there in order. And yeah, like as I said, the satellite uplinks and the workshops are really what I rush to get up. Because you can throw a satellite up above a country, but if you don't have an aircraft to defend, it doesn't matter. Because the UFO will be over there. You could have stopped this UFO if you had an aircraft here, but you don't. So it doesn't even matter that you have the satellite here.
As Dillon mentioned, it's important and optional depending on when you want to upgrade your interceptors, which are your little ships that you can go fight the UFOs. You can station up to 4 on each of these 7 continents on Earth. Or I think it's only 6. I don't know if you can actually station them on Antarctica.
No, Antarctica isn't an option.
Yeah, so it's 4 on the 6 continents, not Antarctica, because the aliens don't want to go there, I guess.
And they actually group Australia in with Asia. Australia isn't all on its own there. And I was actually reading online that for the higher difficulties, like my current game on the 2nd to 4 difficulties, I haven't lost any countries. But as you get up, it seems like it's basically unavoidable to keep all to lose some of the countries. And the advice was just sandbag Asia. If you're going to lose anything, lose Asia. It's the weakest of the regional bonuses. So that was a little bit of cheating that I did, asking the internet, trying to get a little ahead after 2 failed startups on. I love the difficulty, but you need to be ready to jump up to the next difficulty. Once you get a hang of it, you will be slaughtered over and over again if you just start off on a harder difficulty you're not prepared for.
Right, because there's so many just like little things that matter. Height, elevation, sight lines, cover, whether you're in full cover, half cover, the enemy's tech level, your armor level, whether or not you have officer abilities to stop your people from flat out dying instead of just going down. So there is a huge difficulty curve at some points. Like, you might want to avoid doing the story missions up until a certain point, because if you go to do, for example, assault the alien base in whatever underground country it was, if you go assault that base, now certain enemies are there. I think it's the mutons. Before that, the mutons don't show up, but once you assault the base, the mutons are now in rotation for the enemies, because they have like up to their invasion level.
And I learned not to trust the cutscenes. The cutscenes will tell you, this is very important. We need to attack this now. No, fuck off. I am not properly leveled to attack this now.
When I went to assault the base, I'm going to be honest, I just re-rolled my save. I went in there and I was walking around and I was like, oh, there's nobody in here. And then a couple enemies came over and I killed them and it was no problem. And then the big doors opened that were in the room and there was 3 new enemy types and so many enemies just coming in, and instantly 2 of my guys died because they were too close to the door. And the enemies, the way, I don't like how it works, but I understand it's just like a game mechanic. The second you make eye contact with an enemy, with your soldier, it plays like a mini cutscene, and then the enemies get like a free move. So you can't like sneak up on enemies, except for like a couple circumstances. For example, some of your snipers can have the ability to throw like a scouting grenade, and if you are not physically in sight line of the enemy, but you throw the scout grenade over there, it'll reveal the enemy. And then if you can somehow get to see them with another sniper ability without being in sight line of them, you can take 1 free shot at them. But the second you hit them, the rest of the enemies are like, okay, now we're going to take our free move. So there's almost never a chance where you actually get to jump on enemies. And if you move into enemy sight range at the end of your turn, Like, for example, all of your other soldiers have moved, and you move one character right around this corner, and then suddenly 3 squads are revealed on the radar. They can either decide to like flee and get into position to ready to attack you, or they can advance on you and get really close to your soldier, especially if they're like melee units. They're going to get really close to your soldier and get ready to attack. And if it's the end of your turn, now it's their turn. So they just get basically free attacks on your soldier. And that's what happened to me when I was assaulting this base. I got too close to that door. They got their free move, advanced on me, and then it was their turn, and then they just killed that soldier and threw a grenade at one other soldier, killed the one, and then the other took the 4 or 5 damage, almost killing him. And I was like, I'm gonna just go back to this last save before I enter this mission, because clearly I'm not ready, and those are my best guys. So I'm not losing. I'm not losing. I'm sorry.
You have to be patient with your movement. You can't go just, I want to see as far as I can. And really, like your first 2 moves, you want to go as far as you will go, like forward, and then as far as you will go off to one side. And then no one goes past that, because you don't want one of the later moves to trigger an enemy, and then you're unprepared for them.
Yeah, it's like that. And one of the most, I guess, traumatizing, inducing one, I don't know if you guys remember this, Johannesburg, where you're hitting where it's like with all the chrysalises on the sea dock.
Oh yeah, the first time you meet the chrysalises, yeah.
Yeah, usually whenever I run into that mission, I'll usually make sure that I have nothing but what do you call the little robots, the
shivs.
The shivs, yeah. I make sure
I haven't actually used any. Shivs. Yeah, are they good?
They're the best. They're the best. If you could, like, it's pretty much just like a little automated unit or something like that. It's like one of those little bomb robots, except it's got a gun on it. You know how people like to think of what is it, like Fallout is just Oblivion with guns? Well, I think of XCOM as just chess with guns. It's
Yes,
sort of like
absolutely.
where everything is these specialized units, and you got like you manage the combat, and you can get really proficient in combat, but then on the other end you got to also manage your business resources and management and stuff of that, and actually run it as a business and stuff. And that's what I love. That's one of the charming things, is juggling the resources and managing, incoming contracts and stuff like that of that nature. That's a lot of fun.
The out of mission is very exciting. I love the being like, okay, so I got to look at my research. This thing takes 4 days. I need it, but this thing takes 2 days, and it'll help me not immediately, but it is a good choice. I know that I have something to do in 7 days, so I can fit both of them in there, or I could do one project that'll take the 7 days, and I can get it before this mission that's coming up. So there's that planning involved constantly, and then you have to juggle your money depending on which countries you're supporting. Dictates your monthly income. As the only way time passes is whenever you go to mission control and scan for like alien activities. So it'll like rotate the globe, and your satellite network will scan the globe for alien invasions, abductions, UFOs coming in, UFOs landing, all sorts of different things that you can choose to engage with if you're properly geared, or ignore. Now, there is always a chance if you ignore it, it's going to be disastrous.
I never ignore, because the panic will just go up exponentially if you ignore a situation, and panic is just always going up. And there's a few ways that you can lower the panic, but many times you're just waiting for a mission. And when they have the option, there's alien activities. You have one of these 3 to choose from. I got to go for the area that's most panicked to help alleviate it, and each one offers a different bonus. Sometimes I'm like, fuck, I don't even need this bonus, but I need to lower the panic. So I don't want this bonus versus the other 2. And with the resource management, that can help with the resource management. Like, some will give you a soldier that is leveled up very well. With my resource management, the armor came last. So if my soldiers get attacked, the armor always came last. I was leveling up my weapons, and
blast cannon.
The blast cannon, the plasma, the laser, and honestly, those come secondary, as I mentioned before, to the satellites and the UFO interceptors. So I'm still with my regular starting weapons for quite a bit in, because I am always prioritizing getting those satellites up and getting those interceptors into position before I start leveling up my guns. And as I said, armor comes last in my prioritizing.
Yeah, I usually prioritize the shivs first because they're the most plentiful as well as, expendable unit that I could have there. And then as soon as I can, make up with them, and then I'll level up soldiers, and then I'll like try to, try to get research and development into weapons and armor first. And then I'll whether or not you're playing the enemy within expansion or not, it depends on, I don't know if you guys are playing the base game or the expansion DLC.
I got the expansion.
They're both fantastic. I love how Enemy Within adds a covert aspect to it that really heightens up the gameplay, where it's not just, resource management, but also you have this additional cloak and dagger element, which is just fantastic.
The shivs for me actually became obsolete in my last playthrough with the mech units. You can turn your soldiers into a mech, a giant machine with the
how do you do that?
hardcore weapons. It's in the expansion.
Okay.
with the enemy within rather than the enemy unknown. They add a few fun features with that expansion pack, and
I gotta disagree with you tactically there, because while the mechs are great and fun and they have more kaboom for their buck, they're also completely susceptible to mind control. There's no way to shield them from mind control. And there's always going to be an elder or a commander unit on the ground that's going to like take one of them over. And then next thing you know, they have your mech. So I've never really liked those units because I couldn't shield them from mind control. But I would go into the other side of the genetics with where I would, hype up the soldiers. I'd make them, less susceptible to mind control. I'd give them extra jumping abilities or whatever, or healing abilities, when you do the gene splicing of that nature. So, I don't know. I guess I just love the shivs too much. They're like my cute little doggies,
And you don't have to worry about getting too attached to them because, like Dillon said, there is this like customization. So you can change the race. You can't. The only thing you can't change is the sex that they came as. You can change their name. You can change their race. You can change.
You can do that in
their
XCOM
face.
2, but not XCOM 1.
And basically every one of their like head features. Not like detailed customization. It's not like a MMO where you can have this detailed slider or anything like that. But there are like 20 different heads you can pick from, and whenever you get into customizing up to your initial squad size is 4, but then you can get up to 6 people in your squad. So you have all these people, especially if they've been living long enough. You have just like name recognition. Like for example, I had this sniper named Checkmate that I think that went through like 10, 20 missions, and then I mispositioned them, and I accidentally revealed a squad. And instead of going for the soldier that revealed them, they went all the way around and took out my sniper, and I was pretty upset about it. But nothing you can do except for, I guess, just save scum.
There's something implemented in XCOM 2 that I enjoyed, of being able to train your soldiers for a specific class. Like in this one, you just send your rookies out and they assign them a class. So I was the different classes, sniper, and they're pretty overpowered in this game. They nerfed the shit out of them in XCOM 2. The heavy, which has the explosives, and the great ability of hollow targeting, where once they shoot at a unit, everyone else, hit or miss, will have a better shot of hitting them. The assault, who's got the shotgun, and the support class. I was very lacking on support class. So I had one high-ranking support class, peg her ass, and then like one other support class where I had to save scum once Peg was taken out, because I'm like, I've got no other support class, and they're the ones that can heal your soldier. So I was like, no, game, you cannot take my one leveled up support class. This is bullshit. I need more support. Stop giving me heavies. Those are actually the ones I turned into mechs because I had way too many heavies.
Yeah, there's a certain way where you can branch out their abilities on the skill tree. I like to have like one of each on each extremities. Like I'll have 2 sniper classes of each of the extremities, and they use their benefits throughout the whole thing. One of my favorite things to do is like on the larger, more open maps, I'll get my sniper, I'll put them in the flying Titan armor, and then I'll fly them up, and then they'll use their long range abilities at squad sight to take out everything from a distance, from a safe distance, and they pretty much have control over the entire map as I send out the rest of the squad or even the shivs out there just to expose units for the sniper to take them out from a distance. And then the heavies, of course, they're just to take cover away from the other enemy units to make them vulnerable to sniper fire.
Since we're covering it, what is your preferred squad setup? For me, I run 3 snipers. One of them is all just stay in one spot, don't move, let enemies come to you, and let your allies reveal it. But stay on the ground. That one has the stealth armor, so I can move it like wherever and not have to worry about it aggroing enemies. Then I have my second sniper, which has the aerial armor, so I just put it straight up above the map, and it also has squad sight. So these 2 snipers basically don't move. And then I have my third sniper, which has a snapshot. So it's able to move and then shoot. And it doesn't have, I mean, it has an aim penalty, but it doesn't have the inability to move and then shoot. So it's basically my combat sniper. I move it up ahead, and I have it have the scouting grenades. So it's always revealing more enemies for the other 2 snipers. Yeah, and then I have an assault, a support, and then a heavy.
Yeah, the sniper, you have 2 moves. So when the sniper moves, it can only use its handgun rather than its sniper. But I actually found the squad sight just so useful that all my snipers have the squad sight. They don't have the ability to move and use their sniper. And for my loadout, I like to bring one of each class. And as I said, with the DLC, the expansion, mechs are included. So that's 5 classes and 2 heavies to have those 2 hollow targetings to help everyone else get a better aim.
I think one of my loadouts was I would just do 1 sniper and all chevs. And then otherwise I would just diversify the classes up a bit. I would have mostly, I just do 1 primary sniper. If I'm on the DLC, I really don't, having them genetically prone to heal sort of negates the need for a support class. So then that opens up that unit for me to either put in another Chev or a heavy. I usually like maintain the heavies because they could do the most damage or expose enemy units to fire. The funny thing is with this the aiming and all of that stuff, I mean, 99 is just as good as 0 some of the times when it comes to the sights. I mean, the whole they tell you like, oh, you have this percentage of a shot, but it really doesn't mean anything if it's 99%, because if it's 99%, might as well be nothing, because losing a 99% is probably one of the most detrimental effects of the game that really gut punches you.
I totally know what you mean.
Frustrating. But yeah, after playing the game for so long, you do realize, oh yeah, I have taken over 100 shots at 99%, haven't I? This is that 1% time that I rolled the miss on this one, and I find it fun that me and Chris have just the complete different play styles where you're going just full shiv once you can go shivs, and I'm going full human, not even bringing in any shivs anymore. So it's fun how different you can attack these aliens and still be successful.
I've never even used the shiv, so I'm excited when I start playing it more, because I think this is a game I'm going to keep on my list, because it's great to just play like just one mission. Like it can take 20, 40 minutes, depending on how slow and meticulous you are. So it's really nice to just get in a quick match before doing something.
Yeah. Now, I've gotten so addicted to this game that I even downloaded the mobile version, and the mobile version is almost a 1-to-1 port of the PC title. So that's how crazy it can get sometimes.
Oh, that's I don't need games on my phone though. That's how I'm gonna get fired from work. You mentioned that you kind of cut out the support class whenever you use your humans because you play in the DLC, so you can make them heal themselves, which sounds great. I don't really use my support class for a healer. I have the med kit with it because it has the ability to use it 3 times if you pick that ability. But its first choice is the additional movement. So I spec fully into making my support my scout. I put on the lightest armor I could, and I had the combat stim with it. So what I would do is just the first turn of the game, I would just stim up, position everyone else, and then I would just send my scout as far as a single move could do. And then if it revealed anyone, just move right back. So I would just keep myself safe almost all the time because of how far the scout could move. And if anyone got downed, I would have the ability to revive them with that, med kit, I guess, because the med kit is what you use to revive them.
It's heartbreaking when your support class is the one to get downed because you can't pick up the med kit with anyone else. You're just done healing. You cannot revive them. You cannot stabilize them. You just hope that you kill all the aliens in time
to extract,
for the mission to be over, and then they won't bleed out. And yeah, they do have some bleeding out, and sometimes it's just death. There's no bleeding out. You're always hoping for that bleeding out to come and save them, stabilize, and then hopefully revive them, bring them back to the battle.
I don't think I ever got a downed state until I got the officer perk for based on how ranked up your soldiers were, it increased the chances for them to go down but not out instead of just being killed instantly. Some of the time it doesn't make sense. They can be hit with there's a little mech unit, I think it's called a cephalopod or whatever. And it has got this big, huge front particle beam laser, and it can just blast your soldier, and you would think it would disintegrate them, but because you got lucky, they just go boop and just fall to the ground instead, and you can go revive them. Never happened to me until I got the officer perk. Everyone just died instantly. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I hate the sectopods. I think the ones that I other than the chrysalids, because they can reproduce so fast, is I guess it's probably either the berserkers. The berserkers they're easy because you can lead them. You can lead them because they'll, as soon as they're hit, they'll go into the direction of the aggression. They'll go Argo, and you can use that against them, and pretty much, put them in a susceptible position where you could take advantage of them.
Yeah, they are a big, bad, scary, but it took a long time for a berserker actually to do any damage to me because they walk right towards the damage. So, all right, prioritize that one. We are taking him out because now he's an easier shot coming closer and closer to us. The chrysalids, those chrysalids being able to make those zombies. Those zombies have a hell of a strike. They fucking one-shotted
9
me.
or 10 damage, yeah.
They nerfed those. Actually, no, I don't think there are zombies in the sequel. But oh man, I was not prepared for such damage to come from zombies, and they. So I'd let the zombies kind of all right, I'll get to them eventually. No, if they are right up on you, those zombies that the chrysalids created will fuck everyone up.
I had a heavy the first time I encountered a zombie, and it had nano weave armor, so it had a couple of extra HP points, and I think it had the first tier of armor. So, it was pretty beefy. I think it had about 10 HP. And the zombie comes over, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just going to come over and do, I don't know, 5-6 damage. Not a big deal. And then it just comes over, crits, 11. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that guy's dead. Okay, so stay the fuck away from zombies.
Yeah, I mean,
they're arguably deadlier than the chrysalids, because the chrysalids will only do I don't know, 8 or 9 damage max, even when they crit. They poison you, so you have to worry about that too.
Yeah, and then eventually, you gotta take out the zombies too, because they'll eventually turn into chrysalids. If you don't get to them in time.
Oh, I never had them transform into zombies. I took them out at some point, or just rage quit. I think that was the first introduction to zombies. Was once they hit me and one shot at me. Fuck, coming back to this later. I'm done right now.
Yeah, that happened to me. I just kept going through the mission. I took the loss on the heavy, but whatever. The first time I encountered them, though, I didn't know that that's what was happening. I noticed that a zombie was created, and then the zombie went over into the fog of war, and then I never saw it again. And then as I'm clearing the mission, I see another chrysalid, and I'm like, I don't think anything of it because there's a part of the mission or part of the area I've never gone to. But after I extract, I do the autopsy on the chrysalid because I'm like, what the fuck are these things? And then it turns out in the text file that comes up with it that they tell me that they bite humans, put their embryo in them, and then their gestation is like a couple of minutes. So I think it takes 2 turns or maybe 3 turns for a zombie to turn into a chrysalid, which explains why I never saw that zombie again. He walked into the fog of war and became a chrysalid, which came back later to haunt me. But I didn't find that out until the autopsy. I didn't find it out until if I would have just skipped through that text file, I probably wouldn't have found out what the fuck was happening until I saw it with my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, they leave little like cinematic clues where you find the soldier, and it looks like something ripped out of him, and sort of to foreshadow that when you first encounter them in a terror mission. I think in my playthroughs, until I was leveled up enough that I could take them on, I would just skip the terror missions and ignore them, and then just deal with the panic afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those terror missions! It took me a few terror missions before the chrysalids started showing up. But those took out like half my squad because they're just those chrysalids are multiplying the enemies with every turn, and if they
so fast too. They have like 3 movement. They can move so far.
Yeah, those missions you're trying to get right next up to a citizen to save them, and they are both getting in the way of that objective and turning those into more chrysalids. So frustrating.
I was so mad at one time the chrysalid, because the enemy works kind of like you do. Like they follow the same rules for the most part, other than being AI and being super intelligent. They have to do their first move and then they can attack, or they can do a double move. Some enemies have a third movement, but that's very rare. But so the chrysalid ran straight up to one of the civilians, and it had reached it, or it had to do it with a double movement. So it was right in front of the guy. And I'm like, okay, so either I can let that civilian die and become another chrysalid and kill the zombie, or let it become a chrysalid, or I'm going to go up and save that civilian, because the way the extraction missions or the civilian saving missions work, once you get into the civilian's little ring that is around them, you will like say, hey, good job, you're alive, you can do it, go home. And then you pat them on the back, and then they just like wander through the battlefield all safely. Fortunately, at least I've never seen, they can't die once you get into that circle. They just kind of you did it. You saved them.
They're saved. They're just like transported. They're like Star Trek up to the ship, basically.
So I ran straight up to the civilian, and I was like, I don't know if I mispressed my movement or if I was just out of range, but I went straight to the edge of the circle of the NPC because I was trying to stand like away from the chrysalid. But I walked next to the like, I'm literally back to back with the chrysalid, but not touching the NPC circle. And then my turn ends, and I'm like, wait, I didn't get him. And then the chrysalid
too. Yeah,
the chrysalid goes, and he looks.
I'm saving them, right? I'm right here. What? That isn't a save. How is it not a save?
The chrysalid looks at me and then looks at the NPC and is like, snack. Kills it, and then uses its second movement, because apparently I don't know if it like resets movement or whatever, but it's like right around the wall. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm in a super dangerous position because I'm way up here because I thought I could save this fucking civilian. And now it's going to turn into a zombie next turn or the turn after. And either I have to I'm in the same position I was, but now I'm fucked.
That's another thing that's very frustrating about the sectopod is that they can attack multiple times. Like everyone has the ability to attack once per turn. As you level up, you can attack multiple times with different classes. But the sectopod just having the multiple attacks and very heavy attacks was another one that I had to get used to. And you want to prioritize getting rid of the sectopod. Usually there's other high ranking and once again just prioritizing going on the storyline missions and figuring out, if I don't go on this storyline mission, then the sectopods will not appear yet. I am not ready for the sectopods.
Yeah, because I think they have like 20 HP, so, or maybe even 30. They have a lot of hit points, so you have to be able to deal a shit ton of damage and be able to hit them, because despite them being giant mechs, they apparently have a good evasion rate.
Yeah, that, and they have one of their guns is like permanently trained to overlook. So even if you move, it's still something on there is gonna target you.
Yeah, fortunately, that little laser doesn't have a great hit ratio, but it is always a threat. You can't move into position safely to fight them with like an assault unit unless you have lightning reflexes. That is super vital for your assault class to have, because if they have lightning reflexes, the first time they get a reflex shot or like a reaction shot, they dodge it no matter what. The second, third, fourth, whatever, that's standard dodge rate. But the first time, always a dodge. So it's super useful for getting your assault class into position, especially since they have the run and gun perk, allowing them to be the only class to do a double move and then shoot. And if you spec into it, they can double shoot. So they can double move and double shoot. So if you can get them into position for a sectopod like point blank, they can almost half it just by themselves. Now, getting them out alive, that's up to luck, positioning, depending on whether they have other drones and other enemies. If it's just a sectopod, you can probably get out of it if you're especially in your cover, because that big laser, despite it being deadly as shit, I've only been hit by it maybe 50% of the time, 60% of the time. They suck at shooting that big laser.
Yeah, the sectopods usually that's when I bring out I'll send 4 ships up against it, and I'll have them spread out so that way it has multiple targets to shoot at, and then they're all trained on it, and then it'll slowly whittle it down. I may lose a ship or two, but at least I took it out before it took out the rest of the squad.
Yeah, and that's what your ships are for anyway.
Yeah, that's where those disposable units come in.
You mentioned the Overwatch mechanic. Like if anyone moves, the Overwatch is going to shoot at them, and that's something that was different in XCOM 2. Like if one of your squad shoots them successfully or throws a grenade at them, the Overwatch is removed. That was something I really needed to get used to on Enemy Unknown, Enemy Within.
Yeah, if you don't kill them, it doesn't disrupt their Overwatch.
Is always there. If you get one shot but they're still alive, the Overwatch is removed in XCOM 2. No one can move at any point if it's still alive. Even if you take it down to 1 health in that turn, that Overwatch is still active, which I had to really get used to. That was a big part of my strategy in playing XCOM 2 is, all right, prioritize getting rid of that Overwatch. No, you cannot get rid of that Overwatch. Only by killing them will that Overwatch not be a thing.
Yeah, that's really annoying, because it works that way exactly with suppression, which is a mechanic. You can take a double shot but do no damage at an enemy, and it will put them at a disadvantage to aim rolls, and it will make it so if they move while being suppressed, you will get a free shot at them. So if an enemy is suppressing you, you can use another, one of your other soldiers, and shoot that guy suppressing you, and now you've disrupted the suppression. Does not work that way with Overwatch. They will, unless they die, they have that gun ready.
Yeah, pretty much.
One of the other mechanics in the downloadable content, you mentioned it, Chris, is being able to surgically upgrade your soldiers like all my snipers, they get the big jumping ability. I gave all my snipers that jumping ability immediately, so they can get up to the high point without any penalty. And now I think I'm very close to the final mission, but I'm not going until every single soldier I have has the ability to disrupt the psionic ability of the aliens. That one I find very important. Is if you psionically attack me, if you try to get in my brain, I will fuck you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the psionics add a fun element. Like when I would just play the regular base game, I would find all my psychic soldiers, and then I would have them all trained up on mind control.
It's a good skill, honestly, really. Yeah, especially once you get enough will and you get the last armor, which is like this psionic armor. They have a really high chance to mind control certain enemies, like lower level mutons. It's almost like 100%.
Yeah, and it's easy to pick off floaters like that, because the floaters, they're a threat in the beginning, but afterwards they just become annoying. And then you have what is it, the hidden ones, the squids, the squids where they're like
your common
the strangler, the strangled ones.
And is that an enemy within thing? Is that an enemy within enemy?
No, it's in the base game. They're in the base game. It's like a sort of a squid. They'll be hidden, and then they'll like strangle your troops. They'll like
never seen
recoil.
one.
It's like when in number 2, when the snakes, they suck you up and then they coil you up. They constrict you, and then that's what in these ones, that's what they do. I forget what they're called, but they pretty much I think they're like later in the game. I don't know what, because some of the mechanics that you have like negate them, because once you get, I think, either Titan armor or the rebreather add-on, which like adds to health but prevents strangulation, those things pretty much become obsolete, and they just become base hidden enemies, and they just become ambush enemies then.
Well, I don't look forward to fighting them.
Conceal themselves.
I'm 40 hours into the game. I'm surprised I haven't seen them. They must. I think I'm like near the end of the game. There's like this chamber. It's like the Gallop chamber or whatever. If I go in there, it says all progression ends. So I think that's the end. But I haven't seen any of these guys, so I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, the cutscene told me as soon as I equipped one of my psionic troopers with the psionic armor, this guy's ready for the Gallop chamber. Well, my squad isn't. We are not going into that Gallop chamber yet until we upgrade to a bunch of colonels and a bunch of maxed out psionic abilities.
Yeah, I agree. It's so aside from that, what did you guys like about the world of XCOM? The lore, the characters, any of them you love, you hate, or anything of that nature?
I
really build a relationship with your troopers, but it's like the world outside that. What did you think?
So the game focuses primarily, you're the commander of the military, and then there's 3 main officers that kind of run XCOM, I guess, with you. You have the communications officer guy. I can't remember his name. I think it's like Bradford.
Bradshaw.
Bradshaw. Okay. And then you have the doctor, and then you have the engineer guy, who kind of looks like a diet soda version of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I really liked him. At the beginning of the game, he's like this old man kind of mentor guy. He's kind of guiding you through things, kind of encouraging you, and whenever you suffer a loss, he's always there to be like, oh crap, I know I know how you feel. It sucks. So I really liked the engineer guy.
Yeah. My favorite was Dr. Velen. She was fantastic. I like fell in love with her. It's funny because when you bring in when you start having to capture live aliens, that's when it gets really difficult. Like that first capture where you have to like bring an alien down far enough that you can zap it, so that way it can be knocked out. and then at that point you bring them to her, and then she puts them in her little chamber, and she like interrogates them, and that you could like see like a different side of that character and stuff of that nature. But it's fun, like when as you're playing the game, you'll see the idle radio chatter between all the characters as they do stuff and as they go about their day, and the idle chit chat is like really fun when you're playing the putting in those long hours of resource management.
I like that they're always thanking and complimenting you for all the work you do. Anytime you go to visit them, they're like, "Oh, hey, thanks for the new soldiers. Oh, the research is going on great. We appreciate you." It's nice that there are not you're not just like the faceless guy doing things, or you're not the group of soldiers.
Yeah, Valen
You
will
are
agree
the
with
player,
you.
the commander. You're never on the battlefield because you don't have to be.
Valen agrees with you that yes, this is the proper place to take our research, and it's funny how she starts phrasing that. I'm waiting for the but she's like this is the proper way. It's funny how Valen's dialogue is put where I'm like, she's gonna give me a but, isn't she? Oh nope, she approves.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like every now and then when you're on your main map, you could actually zoom in and see your soldiers idly running around the base. That's
Yeah,
almost
because you have that handheld
voyeuristically
view.
cute. Yeah,
Really cool.
yeah, that's
You can
cute. And you
zoom
see
in
them on
into
the
incredible detail level. Like,
yeah.
when I think if you're playing on controller, you just hold the trigger and it zooms in like to where you can see the bolts and the rivets on your reactor and stuff. They didn't need to put that detail in there, but they did.
Yeah, and it's really fun because it like adds like a level of humanity when you see like some of your favorite soldiers taking getting a drink or working out or just walking around on the medical areas and stuff like that. That's like a fun little thing. It helps make the base feel alive in a way.
If I were to ever download a mod for this game, it would just to be add more soldier customization, give them like tattoos and different
Mm,
hairstyles, more than 3 different helmet choices,
yeah,
just stuff like that.
Yeah,
they
and
definitely
they do
need
have
to. They need
uh,
to like upgrade. If there's one game that I want to see remastered, it's XCOM because I would love to see it with like improved graphics. It's just the graphics are great, but they could be so much better running on today's engines.
Oh, definitely with like ray tracing and modern like reflection map technology,
Mm,
like things would look really good because there's a lot of slime and goop and plasma.
mhm,
So
mm,
the modern graphics card can push out incredible particle effects.
yeah.
and the mods. I know they do have the Long War, and then for the sequel, the Long War of the Chosen, where modders have taken the game, and the expansion is very good. Adds a lot to it. I've heard them call it like the director's cut. It begins and it ends the same way, but there's so much more added to it. And then the mods of the Long War is like a super director's cut, where they are like, you like this? You can spend much more time in it, which I don't
Mm.
have a PC, so I haven't gotten to play that. But there's so many people that speak so highly of the Long War mod to help extend the gameplay even more.
Yeah, I like the with XCOM comparing it to XCOM 2. XCOM 2 gives it a good graphics overhaul, but you kind of sacrifice some of the business management to do that. Like I think they focused a little bit too much on combat and less on research because you only have like finite spaces in your ship to do all of that stuff, and it doesn't feel as fun, like building a base versus managing the compartments of your basically your helicarrier from Agents of Shield or whatever. It doesn't feel the same. Something was kind of lost on the jump over, but
There
I
was
always
a
love that. Yeah.
simplification, yeah. There's just so much more base management. As I mentioned with the satellites and the fighters, like that's just completely gone in the sequel. As much as I
Mhm.
enjoyed the base building and the combat in the
Oh,
sequel, yeah,
God.
there's extra bits of padding out what you do in the base building and the resource management that isn't included in the sequel.
Yeah, exactly. And I really do miss that. And because of that, XCOM Enemy Unknown will always have a special place in my heart. Have you guys explored the rest of the franchise?
Well, this is my first entry into XCOM. Um, I've I've played a couple of the tactics games. I've played. I think I've played Fallout 2. It was either 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. And I've played this indie game called Overland, which is very, very XCOM. Like going in, I already knew a lot of the mechanics because I've played a lot of Overland because it's clearly directly inspired by XCOM.
And this was my XCOM 2 was my introduction. As I mentioned, I had the Switch, and my roommate is a big gamer, so I have access to his PS5 and all those. Enemy Unknown, Enemy Within isn't on the Switch, so this is.
I would be playing it on Switch.
Yeah, this is actually my second game that I've played in the XCOM series. So it's only the modern reboots, starting with the 2012 XCOM that I've got experience with.
These games, they get freaky. There's pretty much like an XCOM in every single genre. Because I remember, I think it was the first. It started with like the isometric turn-based shooter with like XCOM, UFO Defense, and then several sequels that tweak that formula. And then they they tried to make a sort of a Wing Commander S-Type 1, where you're playing XCOM Interceptor, where you're playing the fighter as you're taking down the UFOs. And then they had another one. This was a silly one. It was an arcade shoot 'em up called XCOM Enforcer, where you're basically playing a giant, a big bulky robot that has to kill all the aliens as they start invading, on the ground and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. And then there's just so many other ones. I think there's another one. They did one, I think, when XCOM Enemy Unknown first came out. It was saddled within a bit of controversy because at the time there was an XCOM relaunch or reboot being announced, and what people had seen was the development footage for XCOM: The Bureau, and people were like shocked. It's like, wait, this isn't XCOM. It's a turn-based thing. It's not a first-person shooter. And then when the outrage of that game, then XCOM Enemy Unknown came out, and then everybody just gravitated to like, oh, thank God, this is what XCOM is meant to be. They were sort of like clamoring onto that game, as if something precious was taken away from them. And then they finally, got it at the very last minute. And then XCOM: The Bureau came out, and I played. It was a good game. It was a really good game. It's sort of like taking the squad-based shoot 'em up from Mass Effect is how I could best describe it. Something along those lines, except putting it in the skin of XCOM, and it was a fun game, but it just didn't quite have the impact of Enemy Unknown. And I think everything is sort of living in the shadow of Enemy Unknown. Since then, I think the latest entry was the Chimera Squad, which I don't think that one did too well because it took out it took out the customization because you could only do so much with this pre-selected troops. And then it took out the dying, where none of these troops could die permanently. So there were it didn't feel like there were any stakes in the game.
Oh, yeah, where's the consequences?
Yeah, exactly.
I believe they focused on like cutscenes and the character development of the four. So like the permadeath, it feels like such a big part of this game that it really hits you when you die because you are not coming back.
That's one of the biggest aspects of Fire Emblem, which is another turn-based. I guess it's isometric. I mean, 'cause almost none of the things are symmetrical maps. So yeah, it's basically a XCOM-like game, and the permadeath in that really matters because like your main character, if you die, you lose, but every other soldier. They have a name, they have a lore, they have a backstory. Some of them have quests and like families and crap like that. So whenever Tom dies, you're like, his son is in my team, and next time I have to talk to his son, I'm gonna have to tell him that his dad died in this fucking battle, and I didn't re-roll the save, so he's dead.
Diving into
the would be for me. I'm glad you recommended XCOM Enemy Unknown as opposed to any of the other entries in the series, because from the moment I actually started it and got out of the tutorial and I was able to actually fucking move instead of scripted playing the game, I was getting my ass kicked, but I was enjoying the hell out of it. I was like, this game is challenging but rewarding. And I really loved the out of combat just as much. I didn't think the menus were tedious, and I didn't like being like, oh, this is annoying having to juggle resource. I loved that just as much. So the entire thing was exciting. Hearing that they would have removed any features from a future game, to me, is really disappointing.
I do love XCOM 2, but the combat is still fantastic. You definitely lose some of the in-depth, and as much as you're thinking of all the chess moves outside of the combat. And it's like two different you said chess with guns when you're on the board, and then another type of chess when you're just trying to put your pieces where they need to be in order to keep the panic down, and prioritizing, as you said, the shivs for you. I do not prioritize the armor at all. If you get hit, you're gonna die. And that might change as I go up to further difficulties, because it does feel rewarding when you've mastered one of the difficulties enough, and then going to the next one, you're getting your ass kicked for a while again. It's a really a fun difficulty curve that you can master it. But when you go up to the next level, it's all over again. That you've got to learn how to handle yourself.
Since both of you have played on higher difficulties, can you give me an example of a jump from just easy to normal?
I'm on the normal. I skipped right over easy, but the next jump up, your soldiers have less health and enemies have more health.
Oh, just like it's just a game modifier. They're not like smarter. It's just factually just harder because there's bigger numbers and smaller numbers. Okay.
Yeah, there are other.
That's a nice challenge.
Yeah, I think they have like a second wave modifier menu where you can like it'll like mess up the randomization of the shots, where so that way the shots are completely randomized more, so that sort adds a level of peril to the game.
I want to touch on that briefly because I've played other games like this, and in other games and in this game a couple of times I have save scummed certain situations because I thought it was bullshit. Now, a good example is Fire Emblem. Since I brought it up, every action is already rolled at the beginning of your turn. So if you walk up to and you hit this enemy, whether or not the hit chance is 82% or not, you're either going to hit them or you're not going to hit them. It doesn't matter how many times you re-roll your save and how many times you reposition that character, you're going to miss that character. In XCOM, it is similar, but things are rolled each time a character moves. So, for example, you have a heavy and there's an enemy right in front of you, and you've got a 95% chance to hit it. And you shoot it, and you re-roll your save because you missed, and you shoot it again, you're not going to hit it. No matter how many times you re-roll that save, you are going to miss that guy. Now, if you move, now you've re-rolled, and you have, even if it says 95 still, you have a chance to hit him now. I think that is a very interesting behind-the-scenes number, and it's super nerdy that I was figuring that out, that I was like, okay, just because it says 99%, I'm either going to hit it or I'm not going to fucking hit it. The only number that is 100% is 100.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a YouTuber who actually ran the numbers. It feels like a 75% is a legit 75% in Enemy Unknown, and in XCOM 2, it feels like it's off. And someone did indeed go through and do the numbers. He's like, it says it's 85%, but really it's more like 63%. Where it seems like they're bullshitting the numbers a little more, making it more difficult in XCOM 2.
How far have you guys taken your mods as far as with XCOM 2? Like what is it that you get mod? Because I used to just play the base game XCOM 2, and then eventually I'd get bored with it. I'd wear myself out, and then when I discovered the mod library, it's like, oh, let me try the mods for once. It reinvigorated the game for me. Of course, all the mods that I download are primarily cosmetic mods where I can put in voice packs and then character customizations, and I have like a team where I have like a squad where it's like Rogue from the X-Men, Bayonetta, and all these different types of characters that are in my squad now, and it's just added a new layer of fun and customization to it. But what do you guys do when it comes to mods?
The mods, as I mentioned, I have it on Switch. So for that one, they added some of the more popular mods. In the sequel, there is what's known as dark events, which will negatively affect you for the month, and you can make those permanent. So I will play on the hard difficulty and make the dark events permanent. If I play on the impossible difficulty on XCOM 2, I cannot turn that on. I can I've gotten myself up where I can play on the impossible difficulty on XCOM 2, but that mod of the dark events being permanent, which is a fun addition to hard, I can't do it on impossible.
I have never wandered into the modding just yet. When I do, I know I want to focus on new enemy variety. I'm pretty sure, other than the one enemy you've mentioned, I've encountered basically all of them, unless there is stuff after this Gallop Chamber, which there probably is, but I would just like more enemies. The enemies in XCOM, based on the lore, are like master genetic manipulators. So, in theory, that you could put damn near anything as long as it fits aesthetically with the game. And it doesn't even have to. If you're modding the game and you like the rule set and the combat enough, it doesn't matter what you put in there. You could have it fucking stormtroopers for all I care. I don't care. I have
seen that mod. I have seen the Star Wars mod where you can have stormtroopers. I was like, oh, I kind of want that.
0% hit chance.
It should be. I did see that. I imagine they have that for Enemy Unknown, because I did see there's one type of chrysalid in XCOM 2, and I saw a mod where there are multiple types of chrysalids in the XCOM 2 mod. So I imagine
mosquito one.
I haven't seen a flying mosquito.
No, I would say I would like a mod for just pitching ideas like chrysalid, but that can fly, because it already has crazy mobility. So why not just give it the ability to fly and be even deadlier?
Actually, you're taking me back to Valheim now with those one-shot
mosquitoes. Yeah.
Yeah, they turned them into the cazadors from New Vegas.
Oh yeah, bringing it full circle back to Fallout.
Yeah,
that's one mod. The Star Wars mod was one when I saw it online. I'm like, oh my god, I do want to buy this on PC and have me different skins of Darth Vader for one class and the Stormtrooper for another class, and all those different Star Wars characters for each specific class.
Yeah, they got some good cosmetic mods and stuff like this. And with the gameplay, you can only do so much with the gameplay. I find the most popular ones are where they can stretch it out the most, because people love just getting into these situations and just prolonging that, I guess putting off the ending as far as you can, because there is a point where you do plateau where it's like the difficulty just completely just pans out, where it turns super easy, where all you get are just grunt missions, and they all just feel bland, because the game really, really wants you to get into that Gallop Chamber.
And I know that's definitely in the Long War of the Chosen, where they've modded new mission types, because you go out on different missions, and there's only so many that you go out on. And as much as we love the game, we do get familiar with what we're supposed to do on these different save missions or stop the abduction missions. So I know
all
that
of them boil down to kill all the enemies, though. So it would be nice to have more game modes, because even in the one where you have to save the civilians, if you just kill all the enemies, you instantly auto-save all the civilians. The mission with the bomb disposal, all you have to do is just run to the bomb, hit the thing, and then kill all the enemies. So a lot of the missions are essentially just kill everyone. So I think it would be really exciting to have missions like Holdout or Escort, where it's not like go to the end of the mission, kill everyone, and then bring a guy back where there's no resistance. I want to escort a target to a place. It'd be a lot, it's tedious, but it's a totally switch up. You have to protect this guy now.
Yeah, they got that in XCOM 2, but not in XCOM 1.
Yeah,
and
a couple of
I'm kind of
escort
glad.
missions.
Yeah, I think they I can't remember if they've had one, or depending on what is it. There was an expansion where it's like you get this like Chinese guy and you have to like escort him, to the end of the graveyard. And the thing is, it's so tedious because you get like all these guys, and he's got like no armor and only like maybe 2 hit points, and maybe a pistol on him. But aside from that, it's like, that's like one of the most, really hard, missions that I just keep on redoing because I hate it so much.
Okay, that must get more difficulty in the because I've played that on the normal difficulty. I didn't have any problem with it. As I get up to the next difficulty, that save from the graveyard mission must be a lot more difficult. On the normal difficulty, that one's been pretty easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine on the hard difficulties, it would be, like if there was a thin man, all it takes is one of them to just poison the guy. And if your medic's not there to prevent it in that turn, then he's just going to bleed out and die. So, especially since they only have 2-3 hit points. So you have no time to react.
Mm. Yeah.
Something that you can prevent that with is, all these like upgrades to lines of sight and being able to double move or triple move. I mean, it's become so helpful whenever you get to these, like, I would say power spikes. There's 3 distinct ones that I can think of. The first one is whenever you first start getting alien weapons, your damage almost doubles just flat off the bat. And then the next one is once you start getting the upgraded armors, like the ones that have the stealth, the grappling hooks, all of those armors, I think are, I mean, Dillon ignored a lot of them, but I think they're absolutely life-changing. Being able to fly.
Once I finally do get to them, the rocket-powered armor, I love that one a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
When you get the research for it, you get like 12 moves in the air. What's good is it doesn't, as far as I can tell, doesn't consume fuel if you're not moving. So you can just use your one move, fly straight up in the air, and then just stay there, and then your character can stay in the air almost the entire game.
Don't get used to that on the higher difficulties. On normal, I have 6 fuel instead of 12 fuel on that rocket.
Well, I see you have to get the research for it to double it. There's a research tree for or it's in the foundry, or one of those two. But you get double flight.
I haven't done that foundry project. Then as I mentioned, that was my last priority. So obviously, I skipped over that foundry project so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll like get my shivs. I upgrade them so that they can float, and then I just put them in plasma rifles, and those things are damn near invincible.
What is the Gallop Chamber?
Well, the Gallop Chamber, that's like the last mission where you finally save the world, and destroy the alien threat. It's like where you get to their last threshold, and you pretty much have to go through like a marathon of all the enemy types that you've encountered before. And then at the end, you fight like 3 elders, or 3 of the olden ones, and then they'll like, you got to take them all out. But of course, your chosen one is going to have a special void ability where he can create like a void that they can do damage to them and stuff like that nature.
Ooh, cool. Okay, I'll have to I'm going to probably do that right after this, before WATP today, because as much as I want to go back to like play Cyberpunk or start Baldur's Gate or one of these other games in my personal time, I have been enjoying this game so much that I want to just continue playing. I was actually playing it up until like 45 after, and I was, crap, I need to get into the studio. I need to make sure everything's actually ready, because I don't want to be late because I'm playing a game. Like I don't be late to work for a game, so I'm not going to be late to my podcast. Even though it's about games, it would look, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, a bit before I jump on that Gallop Chamber, I am leveling the ever-living shit out of my squad, and I'm not done that yet.
Definitely.
I have my 6 primary people that I think all but one of them are Colonel. So I'm going to try to get to the last guy to Colonel, and then I don't know. I guess I'm ready.
Yeah, I want to send all psi troopers there, and some of my because you send your troopers to get psionically tested. So I was like, oh, if they have more will, they're psionic. And nope, one of my colonels, no psionic ability, despite having a very high will. So yeah, some of the lesser ranked of my troopers are psionically gifted, and they're the ones that I need to focus on, because I'm sending 6 psionically gifted troopers into that last mission. Nuts with sending anyone without psionic abilities.
I wish they dove a little bit more into the world and the world building. Some of my favorite missions are the ones that randomly are given to you by the council directly. They pull you to the side and they're like, hey, you have 15 to 30 days to complete this mission. If you don't, well, then, there'll be consequences. But, if you do this mission, it'd be really helpful, because there's a general who his helicopter crashed. So if you can go save this general, it'd be really great. Now, they don't give you like good rewards, but what I really like about the mission is the person you are saving is usually voice acted. So anytime you're moving them, they're giving you like a little bit of information. Like this guy was talking about how his squad was going down, and after he gets back, he's going to look into getting our weapons contractor to gear his guys because, obviously we're good. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. So now there's like this little like connection. This guy is going to presumably make us a little bit of money because he's going to buy some arms from us.
Yeah, I gotta agree there. I'd love to see more world building. And as far as the carryover from 1 to 2, I mean the quest where you have to like pick up the pieces like left over from Dr. Valen, it's like, oh, that one just tugged at my heartstrings, because I was hoping like, oh my God, I hope to see her again or something of that nature. And then you just chase down the leads and they're all auto tapes and stuff like this. But it was great to hear the voice actors brought back and to hear that character, brought back again one more time.
Oh, Dr.
Valen. It was actually like a sequel. It's not just like another title. It's canonically a sequel.
Yeah, it is canonically a sequel.
Oh, okay. That's
Dr. Valen in some of the DLC did some research on these super powered enemies that they're like, Valen, what have you done?
Yeah, and then when you take them out, you can actually hear her in the autopsy tapes when she's like when Tegan is doing the autopsy. You could actually hear her tapes talking about the creatures and stuff like this. It's those little touches like that, because 2 takes place like, even though you down the enemy ship for some reason, the beginning of 2, you still lose, and it's pretty much the world taken over by aliens of that nature.
Yeah, basically that last mission didn't happen with you succeeding in XCOM 2. The aliens took over Earth. It's 20 years later, and now you're taking it back. Basically the good ending that you have is not the true ending according to XCOM 2, because the aliens win. It's 20 years later, and now you're taking it back.
That's cool. I like that. It's not necessarily like an alternate universe or whatever. It's just like the first thing that came to mind is Hatchet. Hatchet was a book that both of us, or we may have read in middle school or high school or even elementary school, depending on when the curriculum was. But very simple book about a man who gets lost in the woods and survives until he can get rescued. The book builds up his adventure and his trials and tribulations all the way up until the end. And then he's kind of just like Deus Ex Machina out of the situation. Like it's like perilous. And then suddenly he's just like, all right, well, you're rescued. And it's so flat of an ending that I think a year and a half later, the author came out with a sequel, which is actually what happened. Instead of Brian being rescued, it turns out that it was like a dream or like a delirium, and he's still in the wilderness and he has to survive all of the winter with like the wolves and everything like that. So that was what came to mind. It's like the good ending, which is him being rescued. That's not actually what happened. I'm sorry. You ended up being there the entire fucking winter, and then you get rescued later on.
just like studio interference is a thing, publisher interference is a thing. That might have been an editor-publisher note that he's got to be rescued. Oh, God damn it. Okay. And bringing up Hatchet, what actually stuck with me is him dropping the hatchet at the end. The tool became like a character in that book.
Right, yeah, it was just as symbolic as anything else because it's what saved his life. It's what got him through everything. That's why the book is named Hatchet and not Brian. The second book is Brian's Winter because, it's about the winter, but whatever. I think it was good. So I may eventually give XCOM 2 a try, especially if it's on the Switch, because I need another game to be able to just play in my bed or while I'm, sitting in the kitchen or something like that. So I need another good Switch game.
It's different, but it's good in its own ways. I enjoy it too as well. It's definitely a graphical step up. It's prettier, but it feels like a little bit like Diet XCOM sometimes.
And going into XCOM 2 first, I didn't. I wasn't missing all those extra features of the base building and things outside of combat because they do focus a lot on combat, especially. It goes on sale on the Switch pretty regularly at a great price, and you want to get it with the DLC where you're fighting the Chosen, but don't start out with that. They actually have a lot of fun mechanics, like soldier fatigue is introduced. So you cannot send out those same 6 over and over and over again. They're fatigued. They need to take a break. Soldier bonds are introduced in the expansion. So where it's lacking in the area outside of combat, they put a lot of thought into the different combats and the hero classes introduced in the expansion DLC. So major upgrades, lots of thought put into the combat, even though you don't have as much to think about and to plan with the outside of combat aspects.
Yeah, and there's a lot of they put so much into a stealth mechanic, and the thing is, I'm not a stealth person, so I rarely ever use any of the stealth mechanics in the game, but they are there, and it's a different type of gameplay. And as far as the expansions go, if you're a fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation, you're going to recognize a lot of the voice of the new characters that they bring in, and that's sort of cute.
And that actually is something I am a big fan of, and I had to get used to in this original XCOM is the stealth. Most missions in XCOM 2, you start out concealed, and you have the stealth aspect. So being that is just absolutely not a thing in Enemy Unknown, Enemy Within, I had to get used to that.
Yeah, because like I said, it's the second you make contact with an enemy, they get a free move. They know where you are. Now they have basically omni sight of you because they're a computer. So, there is no stealth at all, except for maybe one rare shot.
That's once you're revealed, they get that same one free move. And most of them can't shoot with that. Actually, yes, they can shoot with that free move. But that's a mechanic that they introduce is the stealth. And once you see them, if you're in their line of sight, they see you. And once again, having to do with that patience of going little by little, not dashing as far as you can.
Yeah, sometimes that was a really good strategy where I would just move up inch by inch and then I would get to a safe area and then I would just overwatch for 2 whole turns. Nobody move, nobody do anything. Everybody just stay here because if enemies are coming, we want to be ready and I want to see them the second they see me. I want to be ready. And then only every once in a while would they creep in and that actually be beneficial. But
many missions on the second one too, you're dealing with a clock. There is a countdown of when you will fail the mission. So that's something you in many missions you won't be able to overwatch because it'll be that countdown. You got 8 turns, 7 turns, 6 turns.
That's anxiety. I like that.
Yeah,
but I'm sure be a nice extra challenge or whatever. But
Yeah,
generally
door. The outside aspects it'll be lacking after playing Enemy Unknown.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we wrap, is there any other points that you want to bring up or talk about XCOM Enemy Unknown?
I'm now curious about the shivs. As much as Chris is adoring the shivs, I've got to do a playthrough where I really prioritize the shivs because they absolutely weren't a priority to me whatsoever. I'd send one out on a mission with the rest of my crew, and as I said, to me they became obsolete with the mech. But talking about how you just adore and will just do almost entire shivs, I've got to give that complete different playstyle a try.
Yeah.
What kind of abilities do they have?
Well, they have, aside from the Overwatch and suppression, they're pretty much a stripped down rookie, except they just have, the armor and stuff like this. And eventually through the foundry, they'll gain like self repair, where when they go out and they're in the field and they'll like be able to heal like 2 shots like every other turn, and it's something or that nature. And they're pretty much just a gun with wheels. That's pretty much all that they are.
And that is their design.
Yeah,
that's the entire design is a gun.
But
with
that's all they need to be. But if you're dealing with psionic enemies, they're perfect for psionic enemies because they can't be mind controlled. Yeah, there's nothing to control.
That's really okay. I have some disposable income. I think I have like 2,000 because I just got my monthly payout and I haven't been buying anything. I've just been running missions to build up resources because I've been trying to gear everybody for this last mission. So I think I'll just spend some of this resources on some shivs and I will try them out in a mission or two because I don't want to start over and research all the way up to it. I might as well just use them now.
Oh, that's actually another reason I haven't gone to the Gallop Chamber yet. In the Enemy Within DLC, there is an Exalt faction of humans working with the aliens, and I have not wrapped that up yet. And I want to be sure that I'm attacking the correct country where their base is, because it says you can attempt to do a raid on the Exalt HQ in this country, but you don't know it's there for sure. The country will eject. They will withdraw from XCOM if the base
you declare war on them, essentially. Yeah.
That's where you gotta like cloak and dagger some more, because if you cloak and dagger enough, you can pretty much pinpoint it down. But it's just taking like a lot of cloak and daggers so far.
Yeah, there's 3 countries remaining in which it could be, and since I've retained them all of the countries this far into the run, I don't want to lose them. I want to keep all the countries, and I want those few more hints so it tells me, all right, it's this country where they're at. Now we can launch that assault on Exalt HQ.
Here's an important question. I've played about 40 hours of this one playthrough. I have all my soldiers and everything. If I get the Enemy Within DLC, do I have to start over, or does all of that content now come into my current playthrough?
Yeah, you're going to have to start over. You're going to have to start like a new game.
I figured. But might look into it though, because if XCOM 2 is an up or like a pros and cons upgrade, then I think I might just try the Enemy Within since it's in the same game and it's exactly what I'm asking for, just more content for the game I'm already liking.
And if you're comfortable with the current difficulty, go ahead when you do that, up it to the next difficulty.
Oh yeah, put it on normal.
It just feels so satisfying. Once again, frustrating as you're getting used to it, but satisfying, conquering the one difficulty and moving on to the next.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once you finish the Gallop Chamber and take care of everything, you're going to probably naturally gravitate towards Enemy Within.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited. This has been the first game on the show that I'm going to immediately go into. I've gone from doing the show about a game and then gone and played a different game right afterwards. But I think I'm just gonna go right back onto Steam and just play Enemy Unknown until I do the Gallop Chamber, and then after WATP, I might just buy it.
Like Valheim with me, you introducing me to that one. That was one I'm like, I love this. I'm going to keep going at it. The game we did the following week, I was like putting it off, starting it because I kept playing Valheim. So this is a fun little 2-week experiment to see if you renew your interest in a new game. And I'm looking forward to the first one that we actually just hate and go all AVGN on.
Yeah, I really got
it. We don't have a teaser for next week's or the next episode. It's not 100% confirmed, but we will likely have El Harible on. I don't know which character he's going to be or whatever, but he will be on to talk about some sort of retro game.
He's not a modern gamer, and he is a busy man. So hopefully he can make it and recommend something. It'll be fun if he gives us the first AVGN type game where we just yell at it and throw it against the wall.
Yeah, watch. It's going to be one of the early Sonic titles, I bet, because he looks like a guy that plays Sonic.
I hope so. I've actually never played Sonic. This show is a great avenue for me to play new games and be able to talk about them with people who have also played them. So like for XCOM, Dillon and I both picked it up and we both been playing it. So I probably never would have gotten into XCOM unless Chris suggested it. So I'm really thankful for your suggestion. It has definitely been right on my A list. It's in my favorites on Steam, and it's probably going to stay there.
Yeah, I've been wanting to bring this. I've been wanting to shove this game down your guys' throat since I think I listened to your Guild Wars 2 episode, because I used to play Guild
it's been like 6-7 episodes, yeah.
And I'm like, well, that they really get deep into the games. I got to get these guys in front of XCOM, because I enjoyed that episode so much, because I used to be so deep into that game as well.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that you were able to come on to the show. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to plug for the people that are still watching and will listen later?
Just keep an eye out for me. I'm definitely going to be out there. If you follow my Twitter and Instagram, I'll try to let you guys know where I'm going to be. I've got like another show coming up. I think it's on Friday. Brian's paranormal. What is it? Let me check this real quick.
I am looking forward to checking that out. I do enjoy paranormal type of deep dives.
Oh, yeah.
Paranormal pod, the Freak Pod show. And it's really good, from Jason Bardo. He's a dabbler as well. So I'll definitely post links up to that on all my on all my socials, on Twitter and Instagram. And that's the best place to find me. Just search Conspire Theory on either Twitter or Instagram, and then you'll see me there.
Awesome, and I'll put all those links in the description for you. So give him a follow and give it a try. If you like conspiracy, paranormal crap, then give it a shot. And Dillon, my co-host, where can everybody find you? I know you're making content. Today's show was pretty good. There were some interesting people on TikTok.
Yeah, Dillon from Somewhere is the YouTube channel. It was an odd combination of people we had today. 2 really fun episodes of co-host auditions this past week. We had a self-help YouTuber for the first time that actually offered good self-help advice. It was the third one that we've tackled, and the first 2 were so shitty that I was just coming into Struthless co-host audition like ready to shit on him, and it's like, oh, this is actually good advice for people. Well done, Struthless.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone that stopped by. We appreciate you and your continued viewership. And like I said, we don't officially have a teaser, but until then, we'll see you next time.